Continue the storytelling and the showcasing, or the storytelling part. And this is the rhetorical question for you all. So again, we'll keep thinking about what will you do differently after you leave this forum. And we do have these three key messages. So we are going to elaborate as the time goes through here about the objectives for sustainable watershed systems. We started to brand that, kind of building on asset management framework in terms of InterRegional initiatives. I'm going to elaborate. And in the last year, there are three game changers, I call them, provincially, that enable action. So this is part of what you'll learn. But as we go through the next little while, I'm going to try and pick up on comments that were made by all of you, as will Jim and Ted, and learning from the champions. This is probably the key one. You're learning from the other champions who are leading changes in practices. So that's what we hope we can begin to share with you, or get this group shared amongst each other. So I want to just briefly explain to you the InterRegional Education Initiative, which we launched in 2012. Melanie is part of that interregional team. And so in launching it, we went to the top. We went to the regional boards and got political endorsement. So we went through another round of endorsement in March, April. And Metro Vancouver was actually the first one out the gate in terms of getting the board approval, which is really getting the high-level commitment that the 5 regional districts, the local governments within those regional districts, would work together to share and learn and kind of pool resources. Lloyd, your comment there about steal and share, that's what it's all about, right? On the interregional leadership team, Dave Hislop and Melanie are representatives from this region. So right now, the program goal by 2017 is that all local governments would understand, and we emphasize the word understand, because again, I think in the context of some of the comments today, we said we will change the world in the next couple of years. In British Columbia, we've made a lot of progress the last 10 to 15 years. We're on the right track, but by 2017, we would hope that everybody is beginning to understand where we need to go next, and we're tying it to asset management because we have a provincial initiative, but it's also because that comes back to what you all do with your day jobs. It ultimately comes back to how you manage your assets. And so in terms of a soundbite that guides what we do, it's through sharing and learning, ensure that where we're going is indeed the right way. That was coined by, it's one of those lines that Jody Watson said in one of her meetings, captured, because that is what the InterRegional Education Initiative is about. This is actually the first, this month is a very intense month for me, because in every region I will be making a presentation and meeting with all the politicians in 5 regions. So in terms of Beyond the Guide of 2015, the reason, that's really the tagline, but the reason we call it that, because the foundation piece is the guidebook from 2002, and so we did Beyond the Guide of 2007, 2010, and now 2015 business. These are just snapshots. And so in there we have defined what we mean by the cascading objectives for Watershed Health, resilient rainwater management, and sustainable service delivery. And there is one of them. It's a 4-part document. Part B, I call it the provincial part, because that's the part where all of the various provincial ministries, the folks in there, they wrote the materials and said, I needed your words in terms of what collectively we're trying to accomplish from a provincial level to align that with what people are trying to accomplish at a local level. So I will elaborate on the 3 provincial game changers, but most importantly, what this document is about, it's the stories. So for each of those 5 regions, there's a chapter, and I had to keep it short. So typically it's like 10 pages, right, Melanie? Maybe the Metro Vancouver is a bit more, because there's a lot more meat there. But basically, the stories are captured to be retold, and to spread the word about some of the stuff that has been going on. And it's really a lot of the action starts to happen when people actually meet each other, and they start sharing ideas like, the cross-fertilization in Cowichan Valley in terms of the work with you and Kate Miller. By having those meetings, people talk, and they beg, borrow, and steal. So in terms of the definitions. I mean, I go through this slowly. You know, what do we mean when we say watershed health? What does it mean in practical terms? Because our whole experience has been we've been trying to come up with the right language that's simple, that people can get, and that we can communicate to all levels of decision making. So watershed health, from a practical point of view, comes down to protecting and restoring hydrologic integrity. And boy, it's interesting seeing all the literature coming out of everywhere in the world now, where people are really finally got it, that if you don't manage the water balance in the truest sense, your civilizations are ultimately in trouble. And if we want to hear more about that in terms of other civilizations, do people know, Robert, that you know about the last 2,000 years? And you can give them all kinds of examples. Selectively, right? Resilient rainwater management. Get down to a statement, mimic the natural water balance. That's what we're trying to do. Sustainable service delivery. This is where we're going. This is to integrate natural systems thinking and adaptation to a changing climate into asset management. Because of the BC, Canada funding agreement for the gas tax, local governments, going forward in the next 10 years, if you want grant monies, you have to have an asset management plan. There's recognition that a lot of people haven't had asset management plans, so you're not going to get to sustainable service delivery if you're at your step zero. So the progression is from nothing to asset management to sustainable service delivery, and beyond the extension of sustainable service delivery is now incorporating value feature. And that's why that session you had back in September with Dave Newman of Gibson's was so important, because there's the municipality that's actually pushing the envelope in terms of where we all need to get to so things are being properly valued. So when you download the document, and I'm only doing this because, giving you that much words, because these are important words that will shape how we go through the day, which is watershed health, and I'm going to read it to you, is a function of how the landscape is altered by humans. You know that, right? You know that. So a primary measure is the condition of aquatic ecosystems and stream corridors. And that was one of those fundamental things in 2002 we had to deal with the guidebook saying, well, what does it catch me? What does it mean to people? Well, people judge condition, how, the canary in the coal mine by what's happening in the stream corridor. So altering the land surface shortcuts or short circuits the water cycle. The result is too much or too little. That's why you can't think in terms of just stormwater management. No, it's how we manage the rain, it's how we manage the cycle. And that's the significance of development. Longer summers, when you now need more water, but you can't store it. All these things start to come into play in terms of integrated thinking. So then it comes down to what we've been saying for 15 years about design with nature, those requirements for land development to maintain the watershed's hydrologic integrity. So again, that's the definition. Resilient rainwater management, accounting for all the rainfall days per year. That was the big breakthrough in our thinking 15 years ago to realize that. Emphasis on the soil-water interaction, understanding what's really going on, how rainwater reaches streams by the three pathways. Thinking in terms of surface, lateral inflow, and of course groundwater. They're all playing a part and establishing those performance targets, and that's what we'll learn at 11 o'clock, how to do that. And the foundation is the water balance methodology. And we have to emphasize it's the water balance methodology that we're talking about. The tool or the models are just a means to an end, right? But it's the methodology which comes back to your basic thinking. Sustainable service delivery. How many in this room are actually even aware of that phrase? Hands up. No? Just a couple here. And that the reason is because, of course, in December, last December, asset management for sustainable service delivery, a BC framework was issued. And that took 5 years to work through a process with all the stakeholders. And so that's what's building on the principles of asset management and integrating land use. And I look over Rob in terms of your role in integrating the land use, the infrastructure servicing, the financial ecological planning. This is where it will all come together and recognizing the levels of service, of what level is affordable, because you can't afford to do everything, and that nature is an asset. That's why that presentation by Dave Newman was so important. So the benefits and the values of those design nature solutions, they grow over time. And what we'll be doing over the next hour or two is making this practical too. So what are the three game changers? And again, it has taken us more than a decade to get to this point because, you know, we now started to talk about water resilient communities. In March, I was invited to go to Vermont to the Leahy Environmental Summit to present on the BC experience. And it was there that I realized the true significance of 2003 as being our teachable year. Because, you know, when it happened, we knew it was a teachable year because we had floods, we had drought, and Kelowna was burning. So you all remember Kelowna burning? Those of you who were old enough to remember, you remember going, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right.
Burned and I drove by it on the way back one day.
Yeah. And then we had the Pine Beetle exploded about then too, you know, doubled overnight. So we had the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So that's why 2003 was a teachable year. That was the catalyst to develop the action plan, the Water Sustainability Action Plan. So by February, you know, we had a plan, and Gordon Campbell blessed it. And so then it was into the education role. And 2008, Campbell released Living Water Smart and Green Communities. So we had the teachable year. 5 years later, we had a call to action. And one of the problems we've had in recent years, of course, with the change of leader, you can't really refer to stuff like from Gordon Campbell's era. But 3 things came together last year under Christy Clark's watch. So the first, the Water Sustainability Act, is huge. We'll come to that. Development Care 2014. How did you even know about Development Care 2014? Nobody. Well, so I suggest you learn about it because this is a provincial document that pulls a lot of stuff together in terms of requirements, regulations, whatever. But the real game changer is asset management, because that goes to the heart of what local government does. And this one is still playing out, but the key thing here is that it's kind of creating its own excitement. That what we have to do is translate that or extend that excitement from just from the asset managers to the water managers too. This is our, again, when you download the document, you see this is our roadmap for moving forward. We're just trying to show how everything kind of fits together. So I'll use the, this thing right. It works. There it goes. Okay. So this is our world here. So partnership for water sustainability, our responsibility through collaboration and all that kind of stuff, partnerships is the action plan. Going forward, branding the word sustainable watershed systems through asset management. So the twin technical pillars for water balance methodology, Jim will teach you that material later on. And the next thing we're developing is the ecological accounting protocol. To bring it down to a local government perspective of actually how to value, not the high food stuff, but the value of soil, trees, and kind of the fundamentals. This is recognizing that there's other land and water planning processes going on. There's all interaction, but ultimately where this is feeding into is what you want your region to look like. And all of you are in a position to shape what your regions are going to look like because you're making those decisions on a daily basis. So the more educated you are, the more you interact with your colleagues, the better things will be. Because it really is thinking in terms of 50 years is one building cycle. You get one chance every 50 years to do it right. And so if all the new houses are going in now, you got to wait 50 years, but you can do it right. And a wild card right now is where we will be going in terms of regional water sustainability plans. And so when we do download the other guide by 2015 and go to the provincial Part B, and I'd ask them to kind of get it down on one page and what's the most important messages. You will find the most important message there, and how those who actually written the legislation see the future unfold in terms of integrating a whole bunch of processes, really all working toward that common goal to address water-related issues. So the tools, the framework, the policies, they're all in place. You just got to run with it. I do want to give you this quote because it kind of touches on a lot of what was being said today, which is, why you need to read the 5 regional stories, but really you need to develop your own stories. Is that, and when Churchill said, the farther back you can look, the farther forward you're likely to see. Just think about that. Because that's part of our message, and that's part of what we're trying to accomplish with forums like this. Because we heard the comments. How long have you been here? Was it a very short period of time? 2 years over here. Shortly, 6 months here, whatever it was, a year, you know, all of this conversation, it's a very short memory of what the history is of your own organizations, what work's gone on. So the further back you can look, and the best way to be able to look back is through the storytelling of those who went before you. This graphic really, 20 years ago, Daniel Pauly, who is a prof at UBC, there is a TED Talk, he coined what he called the shifting baseline. Basically what this means is that, you know, when you arrive in a region, what you see is you think that's what the way it's always been. So I'll do you, Rob, because of mission. You know, you've arrived there, mission is nothing like mission used to be. And so you have no memory, no personal experience of what it was like. We're lucky in this region that there are still people alive who remember the 50s when the creeks were teeming with fish, with salmon. I had an interesting anecdote. The reason this kind of connected for me was because when we went across the country a year ago, we did the Across Canada workshop series to tell the BC story. And we needed a way to kind of be able to relate to BC to the other provinces. And initially I thought this would work for us because, well, you know, we're different in British Columbia from everywhere else. We know that, right? Fred Roberts, you've learned that. And it was like, I had a chance to go out to Quebec in the spring, and I met with Gilles Rivard, who's the man in Quebec in terms of rainwater management, stormwater management. And we're having lunch, and I said to Gilles, so like, how do people kind of think about fish and, you know, and creeks in Quebec? And he looked at me blankly. I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, what's kind of like the ethic? How do you think about it? How do people think about it? He said, well, we have the St. Lawrence River. But, you know, because that's when I realized, okay, yeah, they trashed the tributaries 500 years ago, so there's nobody alive, of course, who really remembers. Whereas in British Columbia, we still remember, right? And so what we've been doing for the last 10 to 15 years, you know, when Richard talked about incremental progress, there's a whole bunch of people who've been trying to shift the curve upwards. And so in 2000, you know, when we did a lot of things, we said, can we make a difference? And we said, we don't know, but we're going to try. 15 years later, we say, you know what? You can make a difference. It's step by step. You know, we have a better understanding now of what needs to be done. We're developing the tools. We just need to educate people and our own, you know, our own fellow practitioners of some of the basics. So there is hope that you can change things around. I'm not expecting to read that table, but it makes the point. See, some comments made about, you know, where we're at in this region. Well, that's our history for the last 20 years in Metro Vancouver. So when I made that comment earlier, Robert, about, you know, the original SIL grouping, the genesis, and the programs that we implemented going back a decade, the convene for action, the sharing and the learning, well, for almost three decades, the LWP process has been a regulatory driver for watershed-based action. And it's been a cumulative process. And I want to give you one example off that table, because I think a lot of these things, you know, I can talk to you about it, but you have to experience it yourself. But I can tell you that in May of 2005, the City of Surrey hosted what we call the diac workshop, because all city engineers were invited. And it was an incredible meeting for those who were there, because literally it changed everything. Because after that, we went into that session with a mindset that we were going to develop a model bylaw and a set of supporting green infrastructure standards. And as everybody went around the table, people like Vince Lalonde, Ray Fung, started sharing their stories. What everybody began to realize 10 years ago was that there was a lot of exciting stuff happening in this region. People were doing things. And we literally tore up the work plan and totally changed our approach. And one of the keys was we said, we've made a mistake, sadly, of letting the laggards and the skeptics dominate the discussion. We said, we're going to focus on those who are leading change. We're going to focus on the champions. We're going to support those who are willing to take risks and are willing to, you know, to build them and let them come. And that was the total change in philosophy. So it truly was transformational. So I can tell you that it was transformational, but you have to have a similar experience to know what transformational means. I think Sarah, probably, you've been through some kind of transformation experience in terms of your rain garden program. Now, coincidentally, who was part of that discussion? Hugh Fraser, right? So, you're about to celebrate in 2000, next year, the 10th anniversary of your rain garden program. This is 2005, okay, within a year, Hugh was implementing. Hugh hired you. Hugh established a precedent. It was a big deal 10 years ago for Delta to hire a landscape architect and say a landscape architect is going to team with a civil engineer to design things different, right? So those are the examples that started coming out of this discussion. And so basically what we did then was, we worked on multiple paths, but a lot of the ideas that came out of that very transformational workshop, we actually implemented on Vancouver Island as our proving ground, because we had more of a homogeneous group we could work with. But through that period, 2005 to 2010, we were also doing convene for action in this region. 2006, 2007, we did the showcasing innovation series. Delta hosted, Langley hosted, City of Vancouver hosted, North Van District hosted, right? And we found that we just had to get people on the bus. And that's where they were learning. So, to conclude this segment, by 2017, our goal is those working in local government will understand how to achieve sustainable watershed systems through asset management. That's the goal, and it applies to land uses that local government regulates, because what we have found is that people think that, that you can regulate everything, and we're saying, no, it does come back to what can you actually manage in local government. You can manage water. And so that's why it's unnecessary to understand the methodology is how it integrates the site, the watershed, and the aquifer. Would you like to stand and stretch for a few minutes?